There are secrets so dangerous that they have been buried for centuries, knowledge so explosive that the church declared it heresy, truths so brutal about the female nature that they were erased from ancient texts. But Machiavelli knew them and used them. While the priests preached unconditional love and the male mission disguised as chivalry, Machiavelli watched in silence. He saw how the most powerful men of Florence, Rome, and Venice conquered not only cities, but hearts. Not with prayers, not with romantic poetry, but with something much darker and more effective. And today, after 500 years of censorship, I'm going to reveal that forbidden knowledge to you. If you are over 30 years old and still believe that flowers and compliments are going to make a woman surrender to you, this video is going to destroy that illusion. If you think that being the nice guy will finally win her heart, get ready for a brutal truth, because what I'm about to teach you does not come from self-help books. It comes from the halls of Renaissance power, from the bedrooms of courtesans who manipulated kings, from the secret letters Machiavelli wrote and that the church tried to burn. Are you ready to learn what they have hidden from you? Then follow me into the shadows of forbidden knowledge. During the Renaissance, the church controlled everything. Your thoughts, your actions, and especially your desires. They told you that sex was a sin, that desiring a woman was weakness, that the virtuous man must suppress his instincts and become an obedient lamb. And do you know what happened? The men who followed those rules died alone, frustrated, while they watched helplessly as princes, mercenaries, and artists slept with the most beautiful women in Europe. Machiavelli saw this hypocrisy and smiled because he understood something the church desperately wanted to hide. Women do not surrender to virtue, they surrender to power, but not the obvious kind, not brute violence, not showy wealth. No, Machiavelli discovered something much more subtle and lethal, a kind of power that operates in the shadows of the female psyche, a power that makes a woman choose to surrender, believing that it was her own decision. Let me be clear, this is not cheap manipulation. It is strategy based on understanding real human psychology, not the fairy tales sold to you by romantic movies. The men who dominated the Renaissance understood something fundamental. Attraction is not a conscious decision. It is a chemical response to specific stimuli, and those stimuli can be activated with surgical precision. The church taught you to be direct, to declare your intentions, to be honest about your feelings. Tell her you love her, the priests preached. Be transparent, God rewards sincerity. Lies, all lies designed to make you fail, because when you become completely transparent, she holds all the power. She knows exactly how much you want her. She knows she already has you. And in that moment, something chemical happens in her brain. The challenge disappears, the conquest ends, and with it, attraction evaporates like water in the desert. Machiavelli wrote in his private letters something he never put in The Prince because he knew it was too dangerous. Female desire is not fed by certainties, but by possibilities. Let me explain to you how to use this with precision. When you are with a woman who interests you, never, ever reveal your hand completely. She asks you, "Do you like me?" You do not respond with a, "Yes, I adore you." That is strategic suicide. You smile slightly, look into her eyes and say, "There's something about you that intrigues me. I still don't know exactly what it is. Do you see the difference?" In the first answer, the game is over. In the second, you have just planted a seed of obsession in her mind. Now, she is the one who will think about you. She is the one who will try to figure out what that something is. She is the one who will seek your validation. You have just inverted the power. But here comes the mistake that 90% of men make. They confuse ambiguity with coldness. Don't be the distant idiot who never shows interest. That is not mystery, that it is emotional cowardice. Calculated ambiguity means you alternate signals. One day, you are warm and attentive. The next day, you are busy with your mission. One night, you look at her as if she were the only woman on the planet. The next week, you are completely absorbed in your project. This creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. The same principle that makes slot machines addictive. Her brain never knows when the next reward of your attention will arrive, so it becomes hooked, constantly seeking it. The courtiers of the Renaissance mastered this. Cesare Borgia, the model for Machiavelli's The Prince, never fully revealed his intentions. The women of the court became obsessed trying to decipher him, and while they invested mental energy in him, he conquered territories literally and figuratively. Medieval knights chased, begged, knelt before ladies. The church applauded this nobility. And what did those knights gain? They were seen as entertainment, as emotional clowns, while the ladies slept with the rough mercenaries who ignored them. Machiavelli observed it all from the Florentine courts and wrote in a manuscript that few know about. That which you chase eludes you, that which you move away from chases you. It is the fundamental paradox of female attraction, and it works because it touches an ancient evolutionary truth. Women are programmed to pursue what is scarce, valuable, difficult to obtain, not because they are superficial, but because for millions of years, scarce resources were the valuable ones, and scarce men were the genetically superior ones. A man who is always available unconsciously signals that he has no options, that he is not busy building empires, that his life revolves around her, and that, my friend, is biologically repulsive. So, how do you apply strategic withdrawal without becoming a coward who runs away? Here's how. You're going out, things are going well, there's chemistry. She expects you to intensify, to push for more commitment, to text all day. And right at that moment, when she expects the advance, you step back. Not disappear completely, that would be cowardice, but you reduce your availability by 30%. You reply later, you go out with friends, you focus on your projects. When she asks what happened, you simply say, "Nothing. I've been busy building something important." And here is the key. It must be true. You cannot pretend to have a mission. You must truly have one. The Renaissance men who conquered hearts did not pretend to be busy. They were busy conquering cities, creating art, building fortunes. Women were the reward, not the objective. What happens in her mind when you withdraw strategically? First, panic. Did I do something wrong? Then, insecurity. He's losing interest. And finally, something beautiful. Effort. Suddenly, she is the one who starts the conversation. She is the one suggesting plans. She is the one seeking your attention. You've made her pursue. And what a woman pursues, she values. What she is given easily, she despises. A real example from the Italian courts. There was a Florentine diplomat Machiavelli knew. This man conquered the mistress of a duke not by chasing her, but by being the only man in the court who did not chase her. While other nobles sent her poems and gifts, he treated her with polite indifference. She, accustomed to adoration, became confused, and that confusion turned into obsession. In the end, she seduced him. But be careful. Strategic withdrawal only works if you established value first. You cannot withdraw from someone who never wanted you. It's like withdrawing an investment you never made. First, you must create attraction, demonstrate value, generate interest, and then you step back so she chases what she already tasted and liked. Here comes the part the church truly hated, the part they considered emotional witchcraft. For centuries, society trained women to repress their sexual nature, to be ladies, to pretend innocence, to act as if sex was something they endure for love, not something they desire voraciously. Lies, all social control lies. Machiavelli knew courtesans, women who rejected the moral farce and embraced their sexual power. And he noticed something fascinating. These women did not surrender to shy, respectful men who treated them like saints. They surrendered to men who recognized and awakened their hidden hunger. Listen to this carefully because it is pure dynamite. Inside every decent woman there is a wild creature chained by social expectations. Your job is not to be another jailer who reinforces those chains by treating her like a fragile lady. Your job is to be the key that opens the cage, but doing so requires finesse. I'm not talking about being vulgar or explicit like a brainless teenager. I'm talking about creating an emotionally safe space where she can explore that repressed part of herself. How? First, by destroying the good girl versus bad girl frame. When you're with her, never judge female sexuality, never act surprised or scandalized when she reveals something wild about herself. Instead of that, normalize it, approve it, create a space where she can be her unfiltered self, without fear of your judgment. Imagine this scene: you're drinking wine, talking. She, half joking, half serious, mentions some sexual fantasy. The average man freezes, blushes, or makes some awkward comment that destroys the moment. You don't. You look at her with genuine interest and say something like, "That's fascinating. I've always found that the most interesting women have a much richer inner world than what society allows them to show." Do you see what you just did? You didn't judge her, you didn't act scandalized, you didn't put her on a pedestal, nor did you pull her off one. You simply acknowledged her human complexity. And in that moment, she felt something extremely rare: total acceptance. Second, using the language of insinuation. Don't talk explicitly about sex like a desperate teenager. That's vulgar and kills the tension. Instead, create sexual tension with ambiguity. A comment that can be interpreted in two ways. A look that lasts 1 second longer than appropriate. An accidental touch that both of you know wasn't accidental. Concrete example: she tells you about a massage she received. The average man would say something generic like, "That's nice, I need one too." Boring. You, on the other hand, look directly at her and say, "There's something incredibly vulnerable about letting someone touch your body with intention. It requires trust." Pause. Do you trust easily? You just turned a mundane conversation about massages into a sexually charged conversation without mentioning sex even once. Now both of you are thinking about touch, trust, vulnerability. The tension just multiplied by 10. The masters of the Renaissance called this the dance of the veils. You never reveal completely, but every movement suggests what is beneath. Every word has a double meaning. Every look is a promise without words. You're creating a secret world between the two of you. A world where social rules don't apply, where she can be who she truly is without consequences. And when you achieve that, when she feels that with you, she can release that repressed part of herself without being judged or rejected, something chemical explodes in her brain. Oxytocin, dopamine, addiction. She doesn't just desire you, she needs you, because you are the only man who makes her feel complete, who sees all her facets and doesn't run away frightened. That is true surrender, not physical, psychological. Weak men treat all women the same. They have one formula: flowers, dinner, generic compliments. It's like using the same political speech in every city without considering what each audience really wants to hear. Machiavelli taught the Florentine diplomats, study your target, discover what moves them, and present yourself as the embodiment of that desire. With women, it's identical. Every woman has a unique emotional void, an unmet need, a secret fantasy about who she wants to be and how she wants to live. Some women were raised in chaotic environments and crave stability. Others grew up in golden cages and crave adventure. Some were dominated their whole lives and seek freedom. Others had too much freedom and secretly crave structure, direction, even being dominated by someone stronger. Your job is simple, but requires social intelligence. Observe, truly listen. Deduce what she seeks beyond her superficial words. How do you identify her deep need? Pay attention to what she criticizes. If she constantly complains about unstable men, she craves stability. If she criticizes boring, predictable men, she craves adventure and passion. If she talks constantly about freedom and independence, she probably had a controlling childhood and seeks space to breathe. But here is the part that requires mastery. Do not pretend to be someone you're not. That is unsustainable and pathetic. Women have a radar for detecting falseness. Instead, emphasize the genuine aspects of your personality that resonate with her deep needs. If she craves adventure, don't pretend to be a mountain climber if you're an accountant, but show her your spontaneous side, your past trips, your willingness to take calculated risks in your career. Tell her about the time you left a secure job to start something new, about that improvised trip you took, about your philosophy that life is too short for mediocrity. If she craves stability after a chaotic life, don't hide your disciplined side. Show her your morning routine, your financial plan, your clear vision for the future. Let her see that you have your life in order, that you are a safe harbor in a world of storms. If she longs to be seen intellectually because men only focused on her looks, challenge her ideas, debate with her, recommend books, make her think. Treat her as an intellectual equal, not as a pretty trophy. You become the perfect mirror of what she seeks, not the false mirror that reflects what you think she wants, but the real mirror that amplifies the true aspects of you that resonate with her soul. The great seducers of the Renaissance were psychological chameleons, not because they were fake, but because they were multifaceted and knew which facet to show each person. Lorenzo de' Medici was a poet with artistic women, a strategist with ambitious ones, a protector with vulnerable ones. But he was always himself. He simply emphasized different authentic aspects of his personality. And when a woman sees in you the answer to her deepest longing, when she feels she has finally found what she has been searching for all her life, resistance collapses. Surrender becomes inevitable because she is not surrendering to a stranger. She is surrendering to her own desire reflected in you. Now we reach the most dangerous truth, the one the inquisitors would have burned at the stake. Here is the nuclear truth that modern society desperately tries to hide. Women do not fear bad men. They fear weak men who pretend to be good. Why? Because a weak man cannot protect her. He cannot protect her from other men, from external threats, or even from herself when she is being irrational. A weak man collapses under pressure, begs, breaks, and a woman instinctively knows that if she surrenders completely to a weak man, she is lost. The brutal paradox is this: for her to surrender completely, you must know, truly know, that you do not need her to surrender, that you can live perfectly without her, that your happiness, your mission, your worth as a man do not depend on her approval. So for true surrender to occur, you must demonstrate two things simultaneously. And this is the most difficult balance to achieve. First, that you are completely capable of abandoning her, that you have options, self-worth, and a mission bigger than her, that if she crosses certain lines, you will leave without looking back, without pathetic begging, without soap opera drama. This shows her strength, abundance, high value. Second, that you choose to stay, that despite having options, despite being able to leave whenever you want, you decide to build something with her. But it is a conscious decision, not a desperate need. It is a gift of your time and energy, not a plea for crumbs of her attention. This balance is the holy grail of female attraction. She needs to feel that you are with her because you want to be, not because you desperately need her. And you need to know that this wanting has conditions, standards, unbreakable boundaries. How do you communicate it? Without being a jerk, with clear boundaries and consistent consequences. Example: if disrespect is your non-negotiable boundary and she crosses that line, you don't explode or beg, you simply withdraw. I don't accept that kind of communication. When you're ready to speak with respect, let me know. And you leave without drama, without pleading calls, simply absence. But this does something powerful in her psyche. It shows her that your words carry weight, that you're not like other men who set boundaries they never enforce, that with you consequences are real. But here is the part that separates the masters from the idiots. When she corrects herself, when she respects the boundary, you are magnanimous. You don't punish forever. You don't hold grudges. You return with warmth, as if nothing happened. This teaches her that boundaries are not about control or vengeance. They're about mutual respect. The princes of the Renaissance that Machiavelli studied were masters of this. Cesare Borgia was brutal with enemies who crossed lines, but generous with loyal allies. The women in his court knew he could destroy them or elevate them, and that combination of danger and generosity made them addicted. When you achieve that balance, when she feels that you are with her but you don't need to be with her, when she knows you can leave tomorrow but choose to stay today, that is when the deepest magic happens. She lowers her weapons, drops her defenses, stops testing, manipulating, controlling, and she surrenders completely because she finally found what every woman unconsciously seeks. A man who cannot be controlled or manipulated, but who freely chooses to share his power with her. A man who is her equal, not her subordinate. A man to whom she can be vulnerable because she knows he will not exploit that vulnerability. A man strong enough to leave, but wise enough to stay. This is what the church wanted to forbid, not because it is evil or immoral, but because men with this knowledge cannot be controlled, do not obey blindly, do not settle for crumbs, do not accept being second-class citizens in their own relationships, demand respect, create their own rules, live by their own code. And women, despite all the social programming, despite all the feminist speeches, despite everything they consciously say they want, surrender to these men. They always have, they always will. Because these truths are not written in church books or Hollywood scripts. They are written in millions of years of evolution, in DNA, in instincts that no amount of social engineering can erase. Machiavelli knew it, the princes of the Renaissance knew it, the men who wrote history while others read it knew it, and now you know it too. But knowledge without action is so